to multi-sectoral production, industrialization, job creation, and regional integration. I think the Minister has spoken about how he's going to connect us to all our neighbors. So we really are looking at regional integration. And without it, our development ambitions as a continent really are very constrained. We have been talking, and we've done quite a bit of work, even from our bank as First National Bank, to support households, to support SMEs in getting reliable power. But we must also make that next step, and I think the conversations are happening around how much of that base load together with the renewables. So it's about that energy mix that will support the industrialization of Africa. Africa, I think our story is that we no longer just are an exporter of raw commodities, raw materials. We are a continent that is looking to industrialize. And I think all the efforts that are being made in Zambia really demonstrate that that's the journey that we're on. And it starts by us putting in the right energy mix and being able to back that up with production. Zambia and indeed Southern Africa stands at a pivotal moment, as I've just said. We are seeing growing momentum in renewable energy, energy infrastructure, transmission networks, and cross-border power trading. But it's important that Africa also invests in that infrastructure. And so the conversations that we're having today and over the next few days is really about how do we get that into action. And unlocking this potential, as we're saying, requires more than just policy pronouncement. It requires that we align our policies with technical expertise and back it up with human and capital resources to bring innovative, structured financing and strong partnerships between public and private sector players. As part of the First Rand Group, one of Africa's largest and most diversified financial services group, FNB Zambia brings a deep balance sheet, strength, strong regional connectivity, and extensive experience in project finance, infrastructure finance, trade finance, guarantees, and green financing solutions, or what we call sustainable financing solutions. So our focus is not just to fund projects, but to support them across their full life cycle. That is from going from early development all the way through to full implementation and long sustainability of these projects. In closing, and not to take too much time, I would just like to encourage all the stakeholders who are here, developers, financiers, the SMEs from across the countries, mostly South Africa and Zambia, but I imagine there could be others from other countries within the region, to use this platform fully. Let's make it work for us. Let's make it productive. Let us challenge one another to forge meaningful partnerships, and most importantly, for us to leave this forum with clear actions, and I repeat, bankable outcomes. Africa's energy future depends on what we choose to build today. At FNB Zambia, we stand ready to build together with you. I thank you.
Truly grateful for those remarks. I'd now like to invite back to the lectern the Honorable Minister of Energy from the Republic of Zambia, Honorable Makozo Chikote, to please assist in raising our guest of honor.
I think that is the last paragraph which was remaining. I'm not adding another statement. Colleagues, you can join me by raising as I welcome the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to deliver the keynote speech.
Thank you. You may take your seats, please. Please do take your seats. Thank you very much. Let me, obviously, respecting what the Director of Ceremonies has said, but I have a duty to welcome people that are here. Let me start with the AU Commissioner for Infrastructure, our colleagues seated on our table there, the cabinet colleagues from Zambia, Minister from Zim, Mwamokase. Where is our friend from Zim, Mwamokase? Thank you very much. Also to acknowledge our Royal Highness from South Africa, Tumera. Thank you very much. Acknowledge our Royal Highness, Chair of the House of Chiefs, Chief Chongo. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Let me acknowledge our colleagues from FNB, Chief Executive there, who has just spoken. Thank you for sponsoring this forum. Very important. Director General of the ZDA, thank you for what you do on our agenda for development in this country. I do recognize various leaders that are here, and also my colleagues seated with me there, the Executive Director of Actom Group. I know we have distinguished private sector players here, very important people to have in the room, development partners, our development partners, and indeed the media, which must be acknowledged, otherwise they may not carry the message that we want them to carry out of this very important forum. Yes, may I say also, just distinguished ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, let me welcome all of you that are here, especially those that have had to travel from outside our country. Welcome to Lusaka. Welcome to Zambia. I also want to add to those who have already welcomed you to this Continental Energy and Infrastructure Investment Forum, which is being held in our city, Lusaka. And I think it's important for me to extend a great appreciation for the honor that you have bestowed on us as a country to host this year's forum here. You could have had it elsewhere. You've been having it, I think, in South Africa, by and large, and then you chose to host it here. And thank you very much for that decision, my dear colleague. And I chatted with you upstairs there. We exchanged notes, so we're very thankful for that and that honor. After all, you have to pay for some of your your obligations, having really, if you like, carrying genetic material from South Africa and Zambia. So you have to pay the price a little bit. But it's a well appreciated decision. And I believe behind you, your board and other decision makers. So for us in Zambia, may we clap for our colleagues from South Africa. Yeah. For this honor, really. And upstairs we discussed, we wouldn't want you to shift from here next year. We want you to stay here, continue working with us. And I think the genesis of solving Africa's energy problems, infrastructure problem, lies in collaboration amongst our institutions, our businesses on the continent. So if I may just continue by saying that speakers who have come before me have said a lot of things, and I don't want to regurgitate or repeat what they've said. I just want to extract a few areas that I wish to emphasize to add on to the narrative that has already been well presented, well articulated by all the speakers that have spoken before me. I do want to emphasize that this forum is important, truly important. Africa's issue is not ideas. Africa's issue is about getting things done. We fall short there. We say a lot of things, sometimes loosely, sometimes in a structured and organized way, but we fall short on delivering those ideas that we discuss, which are actually technically sound, but somewhat our efforts evaporate at the point of implementation. And I'm talking about effective implementation. So this forum must take account of that gap as we discuss in here. I must also say this forum aligns policy, capital, and indeed the risks that we face, project preparation, but as I said, expeditious, effective implementation. Let me sidetrack a bit. I've mentioned risk here, but I'm one among some who are very strong proponents of the wrong risk profiling of our continent. Individual countries, projects, sectors, there's an overweight placed on the risk premium. The risk premium, if I may say it this way, is overweighted. Many a time we pay a higher cost of capital, this commodity called capital, unnecessarily because of the wrong risk profile. So, EU Commissioner, please take account of this issue. I heard you talk about a number of issues as we rest towards the Africa Free Trade Area. It is important we recognize that individual countries, regional bodies, SADC, East African Community, ECOWAS, North African Community, are critical building blocks. And them being critical building blocks, there are issues around experiences that have already been gathered in these regional bodies, commerce included. One of these is the issue around the cost of capital. I think we must address this issue like I'm a cattleman, a certain type of tick that once it sticks on an animal, you have to dip the animal maybe even 3 times before it falls off. It just is persistent. We must be persistent to deal with the profiling of our continent, countries, and projects. Many a time, our projects have to pay a higher cost, I said already, but injecting that higher cost of doing business in the whole of our economies, regions, and the continent. And then, at the end of the day, Africa it's argued that it's inefficient. The yields are lower in Africa. I disagree. And I think many of us disagree with that. Having said that, I think we need to have a concerted effort on this aspect. And you have partners in some of us at the heads of state level. And you will hear our staff, our messaging at the AU meeting in a couple of days from now, because we already had a preliminary meeting on this issue. Yeah. I think you are all aware that as part of a small group of African heads of state tasked by the AU to deal with this issue, I happen to sit in that team with President Ruto, President Mahama, who will be visiting us tomorrow, coincidentally from Ghana, and myself and a few others. And we've even urged that we need to create institutions on the continent, including, credit rating agents on the continent, so that we don't have to depend solely on others to profile us. We must start profiling ourselves. DBSA, I think, take this message, if you are here, seriously, together with other financial institutions here. And let's tackle this problem together. And it will help us deal with the energy issues, funding energy projects, infrastructure projects at the right price. May I continue by also suggesting that Zambia stands strong with other countries in supporting initiatives like these to accelerate investments in energy and infrastructure. I said to my colleagues upstairs there that we in Zambia are pushing reforms. We were elected on the platform of reforms, and we're leaving those reforms which we were elected upon as we presented our credentials to the people of Zambia as voters. And the issue around energy insufficiency, inadequacy, is a thorn in our reform process to grow the economy, to restructure the economy, to grow the economy. And obviously, as you know, we were debt burdened, and to get the debt restructuring under what we call the Zambia Debt Restructuring Project. But the absence of energy is really like trying to drive a car, which is perfect, but it has no fuel. No matter how well priced that vehicle is, if it has no fuel to fire it, be it EV vehicle or fossil fuel-based vehicle, it won't move. So energy is so vital. Electricity is so vital in our quest to grow, obviously, the Zambia economy, South Africa economy, Africa's economy. And we need to deal with this issue in a very, very serious way. For us, we got the experience firsthand. As the minister said, ably said, waste, drought, and living memory, which decapitated our generating capacity, given that we were a mono-energy economy by and large, hydro. And I always use my hands to express this, right? So this is where we were before the drought. The drought comes, wipes out our generating capacity almost. And we lost this energy by going down, hydro. What else are we doing? Because of our agenda to grow the economy is growing also. So what happens? The gap is growing, isn't it? We have a catching up game to do. And we need efforts from within the country, but the region as well. And that's why we appreciate this forum greatly, because it should help us to close this gap. And it probably will not even close the gap quickly, because our drive to grow the economy, the appetite is huge from our end. So we need to redouble our efforts, investing in energy, as you heard already. Yes, the green energy is good, but in some cases, such as solar, it doesn't give us the industrial power we need, the base load that we need. We have a case in our country, in Luapula province, where we're driving the production of manganese. But we don't have industrial power in the whole Luapula province. So we have to move the soil, the ore, from Mansa, for example, on a long stretch of the road into Serenje to process the manganese, increasing the cost unnecessarily, damaging the roads, of course. We move the ore. Our objective, our agenda is to process the manganese right there in the province. But we need base load. Whereas we're investing in solar, which we've done already, and we'll continue to do that, but we need the base load in that region so that we can also value add right there, create the jobs right there, and grow that regional economy, which is important to us. God's will, courtesy of the people of Zambia, we have an election on the 13th of August. We're re-elected in office. I've already said, I've caveated it. God's will, courtesy of the people of Zambia, who put leaders in office. We will be driving, one of the key elements or thrust we are going to push is regional economies, provincial economies. So we need energy in each of our provinces in order to drive regional economic growth agenda, which is part of our vision. So this forum is so important in that context. Let me also indicate here briefly, and the Minister has done a good job already, we have taken reforms in almost every sector. In energy, the Minister has touched open access. Very, very important. I think Zambia is well ahead of other countries in the region in terms of the reforms in the energy sector. Open access, independent power producers, independent traders. Very important to connect the producers to the consumers when they need it, if they need it. And many times they do, because the skill sets are different between generators and traders. We're also encouraging heavily the mix we've talked about already, energy mix. Reduce the reliance on hydro, bring in, yes, the solar, but clean thermal technologies. Here, I want to make it very clear. We don't blink about investing in clean core technologies, because that's the resource God gave us. And we have to find a way of financing these projects in order for us to create stable, reliable, affordable energy, with or without rain. That's our agenda. So the people seated in this room need to hook into our vision. And we've set a target, again, before I go to the target, in the reforms, tariff blending is very important. It's assumed, but we should never take it for granted. So in our quest to make the power affordable, by all, tariff blending from different sources. We are also doing, the minister may have mentioned, net metering. I did hear the talk here of MSMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises, even households. And we want to learn a little bit more from South Africa. I think you've done much better on household generation of electricity. But net metering is important to allow, if a household produces 100 kilowatts and they consume 50 kilowatts, there must be a market for the differential, 50 kilowatts. And hence, in our reforms, driving net metering for micro producers, small, medium producers of energy. And we want to accelerate this part of our energy reforms. It also gives opportunities for micro businesses, for households to earn some revenue, at the same time contributing to the supply side of electricity. This is what we're doing here. And we do believe that through such a forum, we can begin to push for commonality beyond national boundaries. Commonality in terms of common themes, common things that we're pushing as we seek one electricity market, as the EU Commissioner said, on the continent. We need to deal with certain things that allows us to move together towards a single electricity market on our continent. But it starts in the neighborhood. Starts in, we're seated here, SADC, our Southern African power pool. Upstairs, I was indicating to the AU Commissioner and others that as we experienced drought ourselves here, we had a situation where we capacity to import, the economy has the capacity to import, but the existing arrangement under the Southern African power pool could not allow us to bring in the power, even where we have interconnectors, for different reasons. And it shouldn't take presidents to meet to unlock those issues. It should take you people seated in this room. And you can spare us to do things that are probably not well placed for you to do. But we are here, we are supportive. I think these are, again, the little issues we need to deal with. The frameworks we set, the regulations we set must work, especially when they are needed to work. And I think if there's a generator somewhere in the region and there's a demand somewhere in the region, as we're demanding that power because the economy needs it, it's a great opportunity to deepen our trade with each other. knowing that, Madam EU Commissioner, Africa is a continent that does the least trade with itself. This electricity energy provides the greatest opportunity as we tackle this anomaly. I call it an anomaly. There you are. So we need to deal with these issues as well. So, having said what I've said, I just want to also say we as a country, for the first time, have decided as government to set targets, delivery targets, to move away from the disease of talk and grandstanding to actually targets for which we work to deliver. In energy, you've heard already the minister talking of 10 gigawatts, from 3.5 gigawatts when we came into office. And we're on our way. But within this target, the mix is clearly spelled out, what we're looking for in terms of solar, in terms of course, we can't abandon hydro. As you know, the tariff around hydro is more palatable to the consumers, but also on the clean core technologies. To give you an example, we're targeting that of these 10 gigawatts, 3 gigawatts should come from clean core technologies, and that kind of thing. I think setting targets by countries, we're doing it for our own objectives. It's a good idea for us to set targets in the region. Right? I know we have 300 million Africans, 600 million that we need to tackle, but we need to dismantle that, to segregate that into specific regions and countries, so that then as a continent we can talk of a particular target and it's deliverable because we can follow it through to a region, to a country. And then financing really must be able to come on board. And you've already heard my message, fairly priced financing, because that's what it should be. So we set the targets, but these targets for us are not just set because of a thumbs up. Because we have targets in our mining sector. We need to produce 3 million tons of copper alone. And to do that, we work backwards. How much power do we need in the mining space? You heard already irrigation. We've set 10 million tons of our staple food maize by a certain time. We're working through that, which means getting irrigation, again, back to power. And that demand then injected in the total target that we have set up. And I showed you my hands there. We think that even 10 gigawatts is too small. Where I stand is too small because of the growth in the economy. So I think this is what I'm saying to the forum here. And when we say those things, we set those targets, the businesses in this room must see the opportunities. The financing side must see the opportunities. And hence my emphasis on transactions. Transactions that are organized and take account of the needs of our economies in our region, yes, individual countries in our region, on the continent, for the AU Commissioner. This is the agenda some of us are pushing, that as SADC meets, this should occupy space in our heads of state agendas, occupy space in the meetings of ministers when they meet. And so we should go to the AU, since you're a commissioner, madam. We would like to see a reform on just the way we run the businesses. We run our meetings as technical people, ministers, commissioners, and then heads of state, so that we can tell the same story. We can walk towards the same agenda, which we talk about in platforms like this. So we must match what we say, I think that has already been saying, with what we're doing every inch. And then the story is complete. But more so the businesses in this room. Don't listen much to us. Pick a few things from what we say. We want to see at the end of this forum that you are penciling in transactions. And that's what I say. I see our High Commissioner there, seated there. That's why we sent you there to be High Commissioner, not to drink tea. We sent you there to follow this transaction. I'm not joking. Because everybody will be singing the same song, isn't it? We'll be singing from the same hymn sheet. Be it the diplomats when they meet, be it, yes, peace, security, stability on one side, yes, but to do what? For economic development, investments, trade. South Africa and us come a long way, as my sister said. But we're not yet utilizing fully that heritage. We want to see a two-way trade. Again, electricity is one energy that provides us the opportunity. And therefore, the relevant infrastructure, the expansion of the interconnector, the minister said it. But also where we have a gap. I'll tell you, for example, Congo, Zambia, DRC and Zambia. Lots of traffic, but is limited by the smallness of the interconnect. Priority. The demand is there on the other side. And I'm talking of effective demand. I'm not talking of potential. I'm talking of effective demand. The two are different. And I think capital should rush to get those projects done, colleagues. The Tanzania-Zambia interconnect. We had a waste drought, lost our generating capacity completely, almost. Tanzania had surplus next door, but there's no road to carry the power from Tanzania, which needs the money anyway, because they invested in generation, and we needed the power for our mines and for other things, other applications. But we couldn't move the power, I think, as a region. And for us here, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, is a priority. And then we can have the East African interconnector, the East African power pool, all the way going to Ethiopia, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, through. Then we can talk of a single electricity market for Africa. These things have already been said. I'm only placing emphasis. Let me emphasize one thing that I know if I don't say it, you all be saying, how did he leave it out? We want to deliberately work on joint investments. Zambian investments, businesses, Zimbabwe, South Africa, as a matter of urgency. It will create a critical mass. It will help on bankability. It will also obviously spread the risk. More importantly, we are going to have vested interest in each other. So, because of joint investments, you want the South African economy to remain stable. Political system must remain stable so it doesn't affect negatively business. So is in Zambia, so is in Zimbabwe, so is in Mozambique. So we get to care about the stability in each other's country. Because any negative movement there affects all of us. And you will see, I think, overall more stability in our region, so we don't export instability to other parts of the continent. Because instability anywhere is instability everywhere. We've seen it. So that's the kind of stuff that we must connect. So more joint investments. As we talk of FDI, foreign direct investment, let's do it first next door to each other. This country is well located. We've changed the narrative. Before we came into office, there's moaning and groaning about Zambia being a landlocked country. Well, what's the problem there? Flip the coin, excellent location. Zambia is a land-linked country. 8 + 1 neighbor. Again, we've changed the history books. We're not 8 neighbors. We don't have 8 neighbors. We have 9 neighbors. Because Burundi is connected to us on the left Tanganyika. And what an excellent location of a country. No other country in this region has this kind of location that Zambia has. Tell me one other country that has 9 neighbors. Just tell me another. So why would you moan and groan about being in such an excellent position? So we're utilizing that now. Infrastructure corridors come through us here. Lobito Corridor, Madam, you talked about. Tazara Corridor comes through us. We are at the center. Beira Corridor, Nakala Corridor, the Durban Corridor, if you want to call Durban a corridor, comes through us. Talk of the air links, 1 hour, 40 minutes to Johannesburg. Literally, it's between 1 hour or under 1 hour. If you want to go to our Siamese twins, we call ourselves Zimzam. Right? Zambia and Zimbabwe, Zimzam. 40 minutes, you're in Harare. Go to Maputo, go to anywhere. It's well under 3 hours. I was in Dodoma not long ago, 1 hour, 55 minutes. This is an excellent location for investment. Produce here, process here, supply to the domestic market, into our regional market, and off you go. So there's viability to locate here. Let me say something else that I've been saying, especially when I meet Asians, Americans, Europeans, that this country has something we don't talk about. Tell me how many countries in our region or continent have no exchange controls. Tell me how many. You will be struggling. We have no exchange controls here. Bring your investment. Of course, employ people, Zambians and others. Pay your tax. You can take your dividends anywhere you want in foreign exchange. No hassle. Of course, we'll encourage you to reinvest. It's a choice shareholders make, but we'll persuade you. But the point I'm making is that there are no exchange controls here. It's an excellent location. Thank you for choosing us to host this forum. And as we agreed upstairs, don't change the decision we made. Let's continue. It's a building block to the things that we want to achieve. Just to return to corridors a little bit, we're not seeing the Tazara corridor anymore as we saw it in the 70s. We're seeing the Tazara corridor as an economic corridor, the whole route, mining, agriculture, processing. As you know, rail transport is preferable to carry bulk stuff as opposed to damaging our roads every day, heavy cargo on our roads. So is the way we see the Lobito corridor. It's an economic corridor, not just to carry things, cargo, but to grow things, to process things along the corridor. And we've now encouraged other countries, primarily towards Angola, Congo DR, and Zambia. We've encouraged our Tanzanian friends to come on board, Malawians, Mozambicans to come on board on that corridor, because the connectivity is clear when you have the other corridors coming through this country. So ZDA, Minister Energy, ZDA, our colleagues, Continental Energy, Infrastructure Investment Forum, CIIF, see yourselves in this way. And when we work together, we invest together, we trade together, we will be a stronger team to now do deals, transactions with Europe, with China, with America. On our own, we're vulnerable. We're too small. So we have a strategic reason to work together as a bigger building block. Then we can sit at the table and negotiate with the Europeans. Madam, EU Commissioner, negotiate with Asia, negotiate with Americans. Otherwise, on our own, we're too fragile, too small. I believe in what I'm saying. So let's do it. We also welcome ideas from yourselves. What do you want your governments to do? Here, We have this president, when he came in, because of the rigidities in delivery, you heard these improvements in terms of the ease of doing business. Just yesterday in the cabinet meeting, I was whispering to my colleagues upstairs that I'm happy to see this minister standing this morning, because we had a heavy cabinet meeting yesterday. Amongst the things we did was to make decisions on basically cleaning out the polarization of licenses in many areas, reducing licenses in many areas that businesses have to go to get in order to open or operate, and improve the ease of doing business. Tough meeting. But in the end, I said to these guys, we don't leave until we've made these decisions today. Nobody leaves through that door. And we made the decisions so we can support businesses. And now is for the Secretary of Cabinet seated there to accelerate conclusion of these decisions, take them to Parliament when Parliament opens. When is Parliament opening? Today. So that house there next door must quickly receive the Cabinet decisions and amend the laws so we can support. And in there sits issues around energy projects. There you are. So I said to the Minister, I'm happy to see you standing. He's happier these days. He was growing gray hair faster. Because in the last 1 year, I've really exhausted him. I can't be pedantic. But luckily, overwork, nothing else. No other issues. So I'm only saying that we need to see the value of working together. We don't need to be persuaded. It's got nothing to do with borders here. It's got everything to do with what makes sense, business sense, what makes economic sense, and what will make it easier for us to negotiate better beyond our regions and our continents. And the issue of Africa doing business with itself, will just sneak in like a snake going through the grass. We have to tackle things properly and in the right way. And this forum provides that opportunity. So, there you are. Our economy is growing. It's the right place to be. We came from a difficult background 4 years ago. It was very difficult. Debt burdened. I called the Zambia debt restructuring program a mission impossible, a python that basically restricted our necks, our chests, and our legs. But we've unraveled that. Very difficult process. Many countries are still struggling, but we came from behind and took the lead. It's consistent and persistence, and we have a story to tell to other countries that these things can be done better and in a shorter way. Again, AU Commission. These are the things we should take on board. The lessons of Zambia, how can that benefit other countries on the continent? We're happy to provide learning points so that Africa doesn't have to go through pain in the same way we went through, other countries. And allowed us to create the headroom and to attract the investments that you hear about in the mining sector, in the energy sector, in many sectors. So this economy is on the move. Before there was contestations, there were arguments. Even I know the minister was almost going political. He was getting into the mood. Even in our democratic dispensation, those who disagreed with us strongly and violently, we know that privately they acknowledge the progress that has been made. It's very clear. And we have no problem with that, because that's their role. But you can't argue about numbers. You can't argue about things that have happened. Banks are busy now. We have brought more clients to these financial institutions. At a young age, I was chairman of, that time, one of the largest banks here. I know what the portfolios of the banks were. The book, the loan book. What we have done through these reforms is to bring new clients to the financial services sector. She's here. And quality clients. And many of those sit in mining and in energy. able to take up debt and pay. And I think these will be successful chief executives of banks. I'm sure their boards and shareholders are looking at them positively. Even their careers will look better. So, I think the ingredients are here. The willingness to work with each other is here. You do what you're well placed to do as businesses. Do what you're supposed to do. Give us the electricity, generate, move it to the demand point. Do your knitting. I think at this point, I just want to stand down and once more to welcome visitors. After the forum, stay a little bit more, spend a bit more money. Around here, there are lots of things you can spend money on. And also come back, bring your families for holidays. It's not a joke. There's no visas now. There's no visa. You don't need a visa. You don't need the processes, right? Airport, stamp, you get it. These are the reforms were made. And that allowed us to move from where we found the tourism arrivals from 500,000 per year to now nearing 2.5 million within a short period of time. It's reform after reform, and reforms work. The reforms deliver results. So come, go away after you spend a few. Now we are happy to spend the rands, spend the pula, spend the Zim dollar. We're happy. That's another area of reform we're pushing. Why should we trade through thousands of kilometers? Madam, we're talking about part of the reform to create our own clearing house so we can trade with each other. You've taken this, you've seen the steps we have taken ourselves. And we would like other countries to take those steps as well. And by doing that, we're not working against anybody. We're advancing the welfare of the people of Zambia and the people of the region and Africa. And it will be better and more competent people to deal with others in a respectful way and professional way. So, go away when you are done, but bring your families for holidays. Victoria Falls, Livingstone, Mfuwe, Luangwa. Come. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. President. A truly uplifting and optimistic keynote address. You may be seated.